Once upon a time, in the quiet but proud village of Uli, there lived a maiden named Unena. She was known far and wide as the most beautiful daughter of the land. Her skin was smooth like the evening moon. Her laughter was music that softened the hardest heart, and her steps were as graceful as the dance of palm fronds in the wind. From childhood, many had admired her, and the elders often said if beauty were a market, Unena would be the only seller. Unena grew up in a family that was well respected. Her father, Obiezi, was a farmer of yams, strong and hardworking, while her mother, Ngozi, was a weaver whose clothes adorned the shoulder of chiefs and maidens alike. They raised their daughter with pride, and when she came of age, many suitors began to knock at their door. Men from neighboring villages carried palm wine and goats to Obiezi's compound, asking for Unena's hands. But the family was patient. They wanted the right man for her, not just any man with riches. At last, their patience was rewarded when Okafor, the son of a hunter, came forward. Okafor was handsome, tall, and brave. He was not the wealthiest man in Uli, but his heart was known to be pure, and his love for Unena was as bright as the morning sun. When Unena accepted his proposal, the whole village rejoiced. The market women sang, the elders clapped their hands, and even the children danced in the dust. Preparations for the wedding began, and Uli Village burst with excitement. It was to be the grandest celebration the village had ever seen. The wedding day arrived. The air was filled with the sound of drums, flutes, and jubilant voices. Palm wine flowed, kola nuts were broken, and goats roasted on open fires. Unena was dressed in coral beads, her hair adorned with cowries, and her beauty that day seemed to outshine even the goddess of the river. Okafor stood proudly by her side, his chest broad, his eyes full of love. The people cheered, the elders prayed, and the gods were called upon to bless the union. As the sun dipped and the stars lit the sky, the newly married couple were led to their chamber. That night, the villagers expected laughter, joy, and the songs of love to echo from the huts. But instead, silence fell. A silence so heavy it pressed on the hearts of all who were near. Then suddenly, a scream pierced the night. It was Okafor's voice. The people rushed to the hut, holding burning torches high. What they saw chilled their bones. Unena lay lifeless on the mat, her eyes wide open, staring into nothingness. Her skin was pale, and her lips were frozen in what seemed like a mixture of fear and sorrow. Okafor knelt beside her, wailing and beating his chest, his tears mixing with the dust. No one understood what had happened. She had been healthy and full of life just hours ago. The elders shook their heads, whispering to one another. Some said it was a spiritual attack from jealous maidens. Others whispered of an angry goddess who had not been appeased. A few claimed that Unena's beauty was too great for the living world, and the spirit had come to claim her. That night, Uli Village was drowned in grief. The joyous songs of marriage turned into dirges of sorrow. The drums were silenced, the flutes cast aside, mothers wept, fathers groaned, and the young men shook their heads in disbelief. 3 days later, Unena was buried. Her body was laid to rest near the edge of the forest, close to the tall Iroko tree where maidens often went to fetch firewood. The villagers mourned deeply, and Okafor refused to eat or drink. He sat by her grave for days, calling her name into the wind, begging her spirits to return. Life slowly returned to normal in Uli, though the pain never truly left. Season changed, and the people thought the sorrow had ended. But on the night of Unina's death anniversary, something strange happened. As the moon rose full and bright, a cry was heard in the village. It was the cry of a man in agony. The villagers ran to the sound and found Obina, a young farmer who was preparing for his own wedding the next day, lying cold and lifeless in his hut. His eyes were open wide, his face frozen in horror, the exact way Unina had looked the night she died. Whispers spread quickly. "It is her," the people murmured. "The bride who died has returned." Some claim to have seen a pale figure in a bridal wrapper moving through the night, her feet not touching the ground, her face veiled, her voice calling out to men. They said she entered Obina's hut, and when she left, his life left with her. From that night onward, fear gripped Uli. Every year on the night of her death, Unina's ghost returned. Each time, she claimed another groom to be, striking him down before he could take his bride. Families began to fear weddings. Some postponed marriages. Others fled the village entirely. The once celebrated beauty of Uli had become its greatest curse. The people named her the Ghost Bride of Uli Village. The curse of Unina spread through Uli like wildfire. Mothers clutched their sons tightly. Fathers forbade weddings, and maidens wept, for their hopes of marriage turned to ashes. Every year, as the moon grew full on the night of her death, whispers rose in the village. "Tonight she walks." The villagers learned to fear the sound of anklets in the dark, for many swore they heard Unina's ghostly steps. Some said her laughter, once warm and sweet, now echoed cold and hollow through the night. Others claimed to see her shadow glide past their huts, a bridal veil trailing behind her like mist. No matter where she went, the end was the same. By dawn, another groom was dead. The elders of Uli were troubled. They gathered beneath the Iroko tree, their voices heavy with despair. Elder Nwachukwu, the oldest among them, spoke first. "The spirit is not an ordinary wandering soul. She is bound by something greater, and each year her hunger grows. If we do nothing, all our sons will perish." Another elder, Izinwa, shook his head. "Perhaps it is the gods. Maybe a sacrifice will appease them. We must ask the Dibia for guidance." So they summoned Dibia Okori, a medicine man known for his wisdom. With cowries, chalk, and a small tortoise shell, he cast his divination before the elders. His eyes rolled white as he spoke. "The spirit of the bride works because her death was not natural. She died in pain, in confusion, and in anger. Her soul is restless, and until her burden is lifted, she will not sleep." The people gasped. "But what burden?" Obieze, her father, cried. "We gave her a proper burial. We poured libation. We called her spirit to rest. What else does she want?" The Dibia shook his head gravely. "Our death hides a mystery. The spirit showed me shadows, but not the full truth. Until we find the cause, she will return each year to claim another." So the people tried many things. They offered goats, chickens, and even a fat cow at her grave. But the earth drank the blood in silence. They tried singing song of peace, beating drums to calm her spirit. But the night only grew colder when they played. They even planted a shrine near the Iroko tree where she was buried, but it brought no relief. Still, every year, the curse returned. One season, it was Chike, a young otter preparing to wed. On the eve of his wedding, he was found cold, his spear lying beside him, his face twisted in terror. Another year, it was Ikenna, son of a wealthy palm wine tapper. He had been laughing with friends, drinking from a gourd, when suddenly his eyes rolled back and he fell dead, clutching his chest. His friends swore that they had seen a woman in white standing at the edge of the bush watching. The maidens of Uli began to despair. Who would marry them now? Fathers became afraid of allowing their sons to wed. Some families began to flee Uli altogether, seeking safety in distant villages. One night, as another groom lay dead, the young man gathered in anger. Obina's brother Ifeanyi shouted, "How long will we let a ghost rule us? Are we not men of Uli? Tonight, let us wait for her with spears and arrows. When she comes, we will strike her down." The young men agreed, and that night, they hid behind the forest, waiting for the ghost bride. The moon rose, and the air grew heavy. Suddenly, they saw her, a pale figure, gliding silently, her bridal beads glowing faintly in the moonlight. She was beautiful still, but her beauty was twisted with sorrow. Her veil flowed like smoke, and her eyes glowed like burning coals. The young men raised their spears and arrows, but as they charged, a cold wind swept over them. Their torches went out, their limbs grew weak, and their weapons fell to the ground. One by one, they collapsed, trembling in fear, unable to move. Unena drifted past them, untouched, her veil brushing their faces like icy fingers. She entered the hut of that year's groom, and by dawn he was dead. The young men returned ashamed, their courage broken. "She is not of the world," they whispered. "No weapon can touch her." As the years passed, the curse grew darker. Parents began to keep their sons hidden when the moon was full. Weddings were no longer celebrated with drums and dance, but held in secret, hurriedly, with fear in every heart. The joy of holy had been stolen. It was then that a new voice rose among the people. Adaeze, a maiden known for her wisdom. She was Unena's childhood friend, and she remembered the strange things Unena had whispered to her before her wedding night. She told me she had dreams. Adaeze said to the elders one evening, dreams of a shadow following her, of a cold hand touching her in sleep. She said she felt washed as if someone wished her harm. Could it be that Unena was cursed even before her wedding night? The elders murmured among themselves. Could it be true? Could someone in the village have caused her death? Elder Nwachukwu nodded gravely. If she died not by fate but by the hand of evil, then her spirit cannot rest. We must uncover the truth. The people looked at one another in fear. Who among them would have cursed the most beautiful maiden of Uli? Who hated her enough to wish her dead on her wedding night? And so suspicions began to spread. Fingers were pointed at jealous maidens, at rejected suitors, even at Okafor himself, the husband who had lived with his bride before she died. But the truth remained hidden, and the ghost bride kept returning, her voice echoing in the night, her cold arms stealing the breath of young men. The people despaired, but Adaeze stood firm. She went to Dibia Okori and pleaded, "Tell me what must be done. If this curse is to end, we must face the truth, no matter how bitter." The Dibia closed his eyes and spoke softly. The dead will speak only if the living dare to ask. If you want to know who caused her death, you must summon her spirit, but beware, for the truth may burn hotter than fire. The elders trembled at the thought. To summon the ghost bride? To call her spirit face to face? None had dared it. But Adaeze lifted her chin. I loved her like a sister. If her soul wanders because of an evil deed, then let us call her. Let her speak and let the truth set her free. The elders agreed. Preparations were made. A night was chosen when the moon would be fullest, and the people would gather by the Iroko tree where Unina was buried. There, they would call her spirit not to fight her but to hear her story. And so the stage was set. The night that could either save Uli or doom it forever. The night of the summoning arrived. The moon hung full and heavy, casting silver lights across Uli. The villagers gathered at the edge of the forest where the great Iroko tree stood, its roots twisting into the earth like the arms of ancient spirits. A fire was lit in the center, and the Dibiaokori drew sacred symbols in white chalk upon the ground. The air was thick with fear, but also with hope. The elders, maidens, and young men sat in a circle, their faces pale in the firelight. Adaeze stood beside Dibia, her heart pounding. She had chosen to be the voice that would call Nina back. Dibiaokori's voice rose, deep and commanding. Spirit of Unena, daughter of Obieze, maiden of Uli, bride of Okafo, we call you tonight. If your heart is restless, come forth and speak. Tell us why you walk among the living. The people trembled as the wind began to howl through the trees. The fire flickered violently, and the sound of anklet jingled faintly in the dark. From the shadows, a figure emerged, pale, glowing faintly, clad in a bridal wrapper that floated as if touched by no hand. Her face was veiled, but her presence filled with clearing with icy cold. Adaeze swallowed hard, but stood her ground. Unena, it is I, your sister and friend. We love you in life, and we mourn you still. Tell us why you cannot rest. Why do you return each year to strike down our grooms? The ghost bride lifted her head slowly. Her voice, when it came, was both sweet and sorrowful, echoing like many voices at once. I did not choose this path. On the night of my joy, when I should have known love, I was struck down by treachery. My blood was stilled not by the hands of fate, but by poison. Gasps rose from the people. Poison? The elders whispered. The spirit continued, her tone heavy with sorrow. Yes, the drink I was given, the god of palm wine on my wedding night, was laced with death. My body grew cold, my breath ceased, and my eyes opened to the shadows. I cried to the living, but none could hear. Since then I have wandered, bound by bitterness, returning each year to claim the joy that was stolen from me. The villagers began to murmur in fear and confusion. Who would have poisoned the bride? Adaeze stepped forward, her voice steady. Sister, who did this evil? Who wished you dead on the night of your happiness? Slowly, Unena lifted her veil. Her face was pale but still beautiful. Her eyes glowing with sadness, she raised a hand and pointed. The people turned and all eyes fell on a woman standing at the edge of the gathering. It was Amaka, a maiden who had once been tutored to Okafo before Nena was chosen. Her face twisted in terror as Nena's voice thundered. It was she, jealous of my love, envious of my place. She poured the poison into the wine. She smiled at my wedding, but her heart was black with hate. Amaka fell to her knees weeping. It is true, she cried. I love Okafor, but he chose Nnenna. My heart burned with envy. I thought if she died, I would have him. I did not know the spirit would bind her soul to the world. Forgive me, forgive us. The villagers cried out in anger, some rushing forward to strike Amaka. But the Dibia raised his staff. Peace, he commanded. Let the spirits decide their fate. Tonight we came not for vengeance but for release. Nnenna ghost turned her gaze on Amaka and her voice softened. Your jealousy chained me to this world, but I do not seek your death. I seek peace. If you confess, if you pour libation and beg the gods, my spirit will be freed. Amaka, trembling, agreed. The Dibia prepared the ritual. A calabash of palm wine was brought, and Amaka poured it upon the earth. Her tears falling with it, she cried out, Spirit of the earth, ancestors of Uli, hear me, I confess my crime. I poisoned Nnenna and I brought this curse upon us. Forgive me, forgive us all. Let our soul find peace. The ground trembled slightly, and the fire blazed brighter. Nnenna's ghost turned to her Daisy, her voice now gentle. My sister, thank you. You gave me a voice when no one would listen. Tell my father and mother that I must rest now. Tell Okafor that my love remains, but he must live on and not be bound to my shadow. Her form began to fade, her veil dissolving into mist, her face shining with calm. The anklets jingled one last time, and then the smoke on the wind, she was gone. Silence filled the clearing. The people looked at one another, and for the first time in many years, there was no fear, only relief. The curse was lifted. The people never forgot the beauty of Nnenna, nor the lessons her relentless spirit taught them. Thus ended the curse of the ghost bride. Did you enjoy this story? Kindly share your thoughts with us in the comment section. See you in the next video.